Thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Nora Sackett. I'm the director of the New Mexico Technology and Innovation Office, and we're here to talk quantum. So quantum, what are we talking about? We've all heard the buzz, right? Computing, networking, sensing. Last year was the International Year of Quantum. Is it coming soon? Is it coming at all? Well, in New Mexico, we are pretty confident that it is coming, and coming very soon. And it's projected to be $1 trillion market. And New Mexico is positioning itself at the center of this industry growth. Let's introduce our panel. I'm super excited to be here representing the New Mexico Economic Development Department. We work to grow New Mexico's tech and innovation industries and connect New Mexico innovation to the commercial market. We support startups with non-dilutive funding, so come talk to my team if you are interested in that. Coordinating across industry, academia, and national labs, and doing larger strategic planning for our economic growth in New Mexico. I'm super excited to be joined by Noel and Maggie today to talk New Mexico and quantum. Noel, if we could start with you and give us a little introduction.
Hi, I'm Noel Goddard. I'm the CEO of Connect. We are a quantum networking company that just recently moved to Albuquerque, where we have our first expansion within the United States. We basically transform existing telecom fiber, which is in the ground today, into quantum networks. So you ask, what do you do with a quantum network? Well, many of you have heard about quantum computers. Quantum computers, just like the computers of today, need to scale in order to really reach their full potential. So a quantum network is what computers will talk to, basically, in order to make that possible. But there's some near-term aspects of quantum networking which are very useful to the government today that are primarily security-based. We're building both today, and we are excited to start doing it in New Mexico.
And Maggie, please give us an introduction.
Hi, Nora. I'm Maggie Newman. I'm a senior manager at Roadrunner Venture Studios. We are both a traditional venture fund and a venture studio. We invest in deep tech. Those verticals are advanced manufacture, compute, energy, and of course, quantum. We are an SIC-backed fund, and last summer we were awarded a contract by the New Mexico EDD to help build the quantum ecosystem in New Mexico. And we're excited to talk about that today.
Thanks, guys. So as I mentioned, I'm with New Mexico's state government. I think there's a lot of houses here that are states represented by maybe chambers of commerce or nonprofits, and I think it's really awesome that this is state government leaning into telling you all about what we're doing. And you may have heard that we're doing a lot in quantum in New Mexico, and some of that includes being a federally designated quantum hub, along with Colorado and Wyoming, called Elevate Quantum. As part of that hub, we're building a quantum advanced packaging facility in Albuquerque. We've made, as Maggie mentioned, a $25 million investment in a New Mexico quantum center that will include a quantum demonstration facility in conjunction with our national labs. And we have a unique partnership with DARPA. They're the federal folks who invented the internet, among other things. And we're one of just 3 states that they're partnering with for their quantum benchmarking initiative to test the viability of quantum computing. So we're doing a lot in New Mexico in this field, and it's really exciting. But why are we doing all of this? New Mexico has identified quantum as a unique growth opportunity. So we're building on these unique core competencies and strengths that we have that you may not know about. So we're home to 2 federal national labs, Sandia National Labs and Los Alamos, both of whom are represented here today. Sandia is a world leader in many aspects of quantum, including trapped ion computing. Los Alamos was home to one of the very first quantum processors in the 90s. We're also home to the University of New Mexico, which has a leading graduate quantum physics program. In fact, you're hard-pressed to find a single quantum computing company across the country that doesn't employ folks who were trained at the University of New Mexico. So a lot of strengths in that field that maybe you just hadn't heard about before. We have that unique infrastructure and knowledge, and what we're trying to do now is pull on those core competencies in research and development and turn that into industry and economic growth and impact for New Mexicans. So Maggie, let's start with you. Roadrunner Venture Studios is the coalition leader for the state's investment in launching a state quantum hub. Tell us a little bit about the companies and organizations that make up that coalition and how Roadrunner is partnering with the state to grow quantum companies in New Mexico.
Thanks. So we have compiled a large coalition to build the quantum ecosystem in New Mexico. We're trying to seed this ecosystem with really important industry partners, research partners, and funding partners. So obviously, QNect is one of our industry partners building a quantum network in Albuquerque. We also have Quera and Maybell, who are both moving FTEs to Albuquerque to work on their dilution fridges and neutral atom compute system. We have 3 research institution partners. We have the University of New Mexico and the 2 national labs that Nora just mentioned, Sandia and Los Alamos National Labs. They've all been really great partners in helping to attract quantum companies to New Mexico, bring a lot of attention, and been really great partners. In addition, we have 3 funding partners. We have Playground Global, DCVC, and Quanto Nation, who have pledged to make commitments to New Mexico to try and bring more of those companies here to broaden the funding ecosystem in New Mexico in the field of quantum. We continue to try and build more partnerships. We want this center that we're building, that we'll talk about in a moment, to be as multimodal and as diverse as it can be so that New Mexico can really be a center of quantum compute.
Awesome, thank you. Noelle, you lead a fast-growing venture-backed quantum company that is part of the coalition that Maggie just detailed. Tell us more about what QNect is building in New Mexico, why New Mexico makes sense for a company whose other deployment locations are in places like New York City and Berlin, and how ABQNet is different from your other networks.
Complicated set of questions. So we chose New Mexico because one of the things that was not on Nora's list is that they also, at the national lab level, had been historically very strong at quantum networking. So we were aware of already very good work going on in the research labs. That obviously, when you're a small startup company, you want to be close to assets where people are doing something similar to what you're doing, right, at a different scale. But what New Mexico really offered QNect on the US stage was the opportunity to build an open access network. And what does that mean? If we look back to what the history of the digital internet was, you'll see like these maps that are little clusters across the United States of small networks with first hardware, where people started to invent the protocols which 10 years later began the internet. And I think New Mexico is poised to be the same for what will be the quantum internet. Again, you hear a lot about quantum compute right now, but to truly realize quantum compute at scale, you're going to have to start doing networking. And it's a very research-heavy thing right now, just like it was in the early days of the digital internet that we enjoy today. So the opportunity to have the support of New Mexico State in order to actually place this in New Mexico as one of the first sites that will be the anchor to what is going to be the larger quantum internet in the US, right, is very exciting. We are a spin out of New York City. We started in a state university close to New York, close to New York City in Long Island. We spun out technology, it's going back now actually 6 years ago. So like a lot of quantum, you require a long front-end investment in order to realize things which are practical in this space. But what's, I think, particularly interesting to us right now is that we've transitioned from the pure invention stage to the manufacturing and product deployment stage. We have units in New York, we have them in Montana, we have them in Berlin, and then we have handfuls of units in another 24 places across the US and Europe. Somebody needs to manufacture that, and I think New Mexico has a great workforce for that as well. We've really been impressed by the efforts of the local colleges within the Albuquerque area to come on board and to help us with the technician training programs.
We're super excited about having ABQNet in New Mexico. It's another great quiver in the arrow of the quantum infrastructure that New Mexico has to offer. While ABQNet is part of the Roadrunner Coalition, it's in a different facility than this broader hub that we are building, Maggie, and we're super excited about what's going into that facility. Tell us about what that's going to include and what kind of new cross-partner collaboration that is enabling across the labs and industry and academia.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were thrilled to celebrate with Noel a couple weeks ago the opening of the ABQNet and QNEC's office in downtown Albuquerque. However, we're building another facility in downtown Albuquerque. We have 30,000 square feet under construction right now, where we are building vibration isolation slabs for the AOM quantum work, the neutral atom and trapped ion work. We have Maybell fridges on order. They'll come. We'll have 3 active dilution fridges in our facility. We have office space, conference room space, and we're really trying to build a place where everybody can work together, they can cross-pollinate. When I say everybody, I actually mean we're including the national labs in that working facility. So companies, industry partners have the opportunity to come to Albuquerque and work literally right alongside the national labs in the QDF that Nora mentioned a moment ago, the quantum demonstration facility. It's a great opportunity to build with the customer what they need. We're hoping to use that national labs partnership to differentiate ourselves from some of the other hubs around the country and really draw a different kind of work to New Mexico in partnership with DARPA and the other federal partners.
Super excited about what we're building with that. Noel, you mentioned that workforce is really important. It's one of the main challenges that the quantum industry faces right now. For every trained quantum worker in the Mountain West region, there are 3 open positions. So think about that when you're thinking about economic development, workforce, job opportunity for growing generations. New Mexico is doing the work to address that need and train the workforce that the industry needs to grow. One of those things we're doing is the Central New Mexico Community College Quantum Technician Boot Camp. So this is the first program of its kind in the entire country in New Mexico, training folks to be quantum technicians. So you may think that every person who works in quantum needs a PhD or is an engineer or is a quantum physicist, and that's just not the case. There are a lot of positions that are accessible without higher education, certainly without having a PhD. And so we've created this program in New Mexico to train folks to be those non-degree seeking, non-degree necessary technician positions. Noel, as a company doing this industry hiring, you are involved with this cohort. They just graduated their first cohort in 2025, and their second cohort is being trained right now. Tell us a little bit about why this workforce training is so important and how New Mexico is kind of ahead of the game with this program.
I was a professor in the City University system in New York, which is a huge public college system. At least half, if not more, of those campuses are community colleges, which I think serve an incredibly important role for both, giving skills to the sort of non-degree seeking side, but also upskilling the existing workforce. When we first came to Albuquerque, we were introduced to Central New Mexico Community College and this program for the Quantum Technician Bootcamp program that they were putting together. I think it's maybe not something everyone thinks about, but the national labs need technicians too. And this is an opportunity for what is not a traditional training, because the types of instrumentation that you handle in quantum technologies is not the traditional mechanical, electrical, or optical type systems that you might in other types of industries. So the idea of being able to train on this, I already thought was very interesting, but what I loved about the CNM's approach is the openness to actually engage industry for immersion training. So you can actually put your equipment within these teaching labs. And that allows you to save the 6 months of onboarding time that you have whenever you're a small company trying to make new hires in the technician space, and you have to train somebody on site because nobody has these skills coming out of the gate. So I think it's a great advantage to the population training workforce, which is, I think, good for the state of New Mexico, good for companies that are moving, that would hire these technicians. But we actually hired somebody from the first cohort. He literally has been training up in the last few weeks. Yes, super exciting. And I just gave a talk to the second cohort, and I know that we're going to be picking someone from there as well. But again, it's part of a community. And you mentioned that you don't need just quantum PhDs, right? So the other, I think, important thing is that if you look at QNEC's workforce, we're 26 people. We're divided more or less evenly between engineers, scientists, software people, and then my manufacturing team. And all of that is important for my company. So I will also end up hiring engineers and others from the New Mexico system, which already has that part of the workforce. And of course, we're excited. So.
I think that's a great example of one of the incredible assets of New Mexico is we may be smaller, but that really yields a lot of nimbleness, right? So Noelle highlighted how we're bringing in this industry. They identify a need for folks to be trained in certain elements. We bring in our higher education. We create the training program. They partner with industry to really dive in and hone in on what they need to be trained on. They train New Mexicans for this program, and now they're working for companies like Connect. So that had all happened in the course of a very short period of time, and is really, I think, a great example of how New Mexico is able to be nimble to meet the needs of growing industry. So we've talked lab partnerships, we've talked strategic state funding, programmatic support, workforce. Let's talk capital a little bit. Secretary Black, when he was up here, mentioned that New Mexico has the second largest sovereign wealth fund in the country, managed by our State Investment Council, or the SIC. And they too have identified quantum as an area in which New Mexico has a unique right to win. And they've been building a quantum investment thesis for the state that includes funds specifically tasked with advanced computing activity in New Mexico. Both Roadrunner and Connect have involvement with SIC funding. We're going to hear later today in much more detail about the ties between strategic capital deployment and economic development policy in New Mexico. I encourage everybody to come for that panel at 4, including hearing from the SIC's Director of Venture Capital. But I'd like to hear from each of you about your connection to the State Investment Council and how important that access to capital is for building in New Mexico.
I'd love to start. Roadrunner's largest LP is the New Mexico SIC. We were conceived out of their strategy in deep tech innovation. We want to both start and grow companies in New Mexico. So we're thrilled to be part of this cohort of venture capital funds who receive money from the SIC and try and reinvest it in New Mexico and specifically in deep tech. We have built a partnership among a number of those funds. We're trying to use our local power to demonstrate partnerships with researchers, to introduce them to companies and to founders who are local, and to attract new companies to New Mexico. Because of the work of the SIC, we don't feel like we need to build Silicon Valley in New Mexico because Silicon Valley has come to New Mexico.
The SIC acts as a limited partner in other venture funds. Connect has been supported by Airbus Ventures. Airbus, just like the planes, may or may not be taking off right now, but Airbus Ventures is a non-strategic fund that is related to Airbus, the actual aerospace company. But I think one of the interesting things about these types of sovereign wealth funds is the ability to support technologies which are emerging, rather than technologies that are sort of a variant on another app or another software platform, et cetera. I mean, it is the role of government to try to assist VC in order to have established small companies, particularly in these sort of daring fields like fusion and quantum, things that are not yielding benefit in the sort of 3 to 5 year standard venture timeline. And that's where the NMSIC and others that are in the same role, like the EDD, can actually support the development of those industries within a state, things that have the slightly longer timeline. And partnerships like what Roadrunner has created with Quantination and DCVC and Playground, those are all A-list deep tech funds, Quantination being specific to quantum and deep physics. They're attracted to New Mexico because they're seeing that their dollars go further with the support of other types of funds that are there because of the NMSIC and also because of the economic development support. You can't grow those seed stage companies without having all of the money that comes in on the front end to make sure that they don't trip as soon as they start to walk, right? And I think it's setting up the ecosystem for great success.
Thank you both. we've heard a lot in a short period of time about why New Mexico is the quantum state, and there's actually even more to come from our recently concluded legislative session, including more than $140 million in new funding specifically for quantum. That includes a centralized open user facility and additional non-dilutive funding to support quantum company growth in New Mexico. So this is our call to action. If you're here, you're in this industry, we want you in New Mexico, please come talk to us. My office's table is just in here. And please come talk to Noelle and Maggie about what they're building and what it's been like to build in New Mexico. Join us in our quantum hub that we're building and collaborate with us to build this industry in New Mexico. To wrap us up, just to each of you, what are you most excited about in the next few years in quantum and how that's developing in the land of enchantment, soon to be called the land of entanglement?
Is good branding, right? I think that is every single time we get excited about what we're putting in with the open access network in New Mexico, there's this like hint of the dream that was once ARPANET. I mean, it's really exciting to think that, just 5 years ago, we were thinking about how to build the equipment. Now it's actually supporting broad usage where people can come in and start to do protocol design, et cetera. And it's happening in New Mexico. So I think New Mexico is really differentiated as a hub now for something beyond the sort of quantum compute that you see in a few other places in the country. This is going to be the place where you actually see the progress of networking those computers. Very exciting.
And Maggie?
We're really excited to see our partners flourish as a result of the state's investment in quantum. We want to add more nodes to the ABQ net. We want to see what Quera can build with Sandia. We want to see our quantum fridges turn into real quantum computers. There's so much opportunity in the next 6, 12, 18 months for these things to really take root and grow. And a couple years from now, we should have really large operational computers right in downtown Albuquerque.
It's an exciting time. So if you take anything away from this, maybe you're not an expert in quantum yet, that's okay. But you know that New Mexico is putting in the work and the funding to grow this unique industry, and that if folks are interested in quantum, New Mexico is where they should be looking. So please join me in thanking our panelists, and come find us if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.